So let me begin. This is a view of the massive oak, and I've asked Josh to walk up to the tree to show you how large the tree really is. There you are. That's Josh, and that is our lovely boxer dog. That's not my dog, it's Matthew's dog. So next to our guest house, we have this great big oak sapling. And believe it or not, this oak tree, which is easily 12 foot tall, is just about 10 or 12 years old. It's hard to imagine that it is, but this is a seedling that I let grow among all the rocks that we have stored here. And you can see it is absolutely huge. I've been growing it or letting it grow in this location because I wanted to make the trunk thick. And I'm showing you how thick the trunk is. It's at least 8 inches at the base. And that's a nice potential leader. But the rest of the tree is going to be cut where my finger is. So we've taken about 10 or 12 years to grow this tree to this size. And as you all know, if you are to make bonsai, we don't want them 10 or 12 feet high. We want them more manageable, say maybe 3 foot or 4 foot. There's another one. This I did cut off many years ago, and it's formed a very complicated broom style. But they're all stray seedlings, which I've allowed to grow among the rocks. Now, let's see what we should do to it. These branches are much too long. So we will set about chopping the top off. So here is Josh with his mini chainsaw. It's a petrol mini chainsaw. At least you don't hear the whirring of the chainsaw, just my voice. He's cutting the thick branches off. We're going to keep that as the new leader. And we will only getting rid of the thicker branches and the top of the tree. Just as well there's no sound because the chainsaw makes a terrible noise. You can see exactly what he's doing. We get the thick branches off because if you leave the thick branches to continue growing, it will form inverse taper at that point. It's much better to allow new thin branches to grow and develop the new branches from those thin branches. So here Josh is taking the top of the stump off to create the new leader. In fact, commentating without the sound of the chainsaw is a bit of an advantage. Sloping cut. And we will now simply reduce the length of the branches. This is a simple bit. In fact, those of you who go collecting and have permission to collect will probably reduce the trees like the way I'm doing before you dig it up. We could have dug it up, but we don't have a digger. Trees like this we don't do by hand. We prefer to use a machine. So let's leave it to grow for another year like this. while it makes new branches, and next year we will dig it up. But when we dig it up, can you imagine, we have a job on our hands. We've got to get rid of all these rocks. These rocks, by the way, we have accumulated over the years because we used to do a lot of Japanese gardening, and all these rocks are for our Japanese gardening projects. We are counting the rings there, and I asked Josh to count the rings, and believe it or not, we counted only 5 rings. So the top of the tree, the part that we cut off, only has about 5 rings, which means the top is only about 5 or 6 years old, no more than that. Quite hard to believe. It just shows how rapidly these trees grow. They really grow fast when allowed to grow in the ground. So this is the shape of the tree for the future. There you go. Now let's look at these other ones. These other ones, I did mention that we chopped it down to about 18 inches many years ago, and all these side shoots or branches have grown like a broom-style tree. But I don't really want it to grow like that. I'm going to see what shape I can get out of this tree. So let's see what happens. Let's look closer at the trees. So, among the massive branches, these branches are no more than 2 or 3 years old. Well, we'll get rid of all the unwanted debris. Doesn't look like a bonsai at all. So we've got to cut all this off. We don't want this. So we've spared you the sound of the chainsaw. You can just about see the shape. There is a bit of movement in the trunk. When we cut more of these small shoots off, you will begin to see the line of the tree. Can you see how it bends to the right and then goes upwards? We're going to exploit that to the full. So let's carry on. We're going to take some of the upper part of the leader off. There is a leader. This is it. You can see how the tree does bend. So there is movement in the tree. So look at that shape. We've got a nice angular shape to that tree. And the trunk, again, is certainly about 4 to 6 inches in diameter at the base. So that's what we cut off. We're going to leave it to grow there. Let it produce new branches, which I will control now very carefully. Some of those thick branches I would take off eventually. I don't want them. And there's another one there. So we've got quite a few of these oak saplings, which all have trunks 4 to 6 or 8 inches in diameter. So we don't have to go collecting from the wild. We have our own trees that grow wild on our nursery. I'm going to show you some oaks that we have on the nursery. This was collected by someone else, but we've planted in this pot, and we're going to do further work on it, and we're going to refine it further, maybe enhance it by some more carving. You see how the branches are quite well formed, and already there is a gradual taper appearing. The root on the left hand side is rather ugly. What am I showing you? I've just come back from the USA, so Maryland Bonsai Association, hello there. I don't know who gave me this lovely t-shirt, but I'm still a bit jet lagged and can't get over what I've had last week. So let's move on to something else. I will show you some more oak trees that we have. This is another oak tree that we purchased from one of the collectors, and we're going to do something with it. That great big top is going to come off, and we're going to only use the base for the bonsai. So as I say, watch this space. There's something else that we've grown on the nursery, and I'm going to show you this tree. I'm going to walk to it. Pity about the sound. This is probably exactly what I was saying earlier on, because I do remember all the words that I speak. So this great big oak, we've been training for the last 15 years. It is every bit 4 or 5 foot tall. You look at the movement. You see it's been cut in 2 or 3 places, and the superstructure or the branching is quite good. So I'm going to keep this as a tall tree, 4 or 5 foot tall bonsai. This, by the way, while I'm passing, is Japanese honeysuckle. Japanese honeysuckle have beautiful twisted trunks. Look at the driftwood on that. That is natural wood. The trunk grows in that way. It grows in that contorted way. Look at the base on that. It's forming exactly the same characteristics as the dead piece of wood I showed you a minute ago. And Japanese honeysuckle have these beautiful white flowers. They're not highly scented, but very easy to propagate from cuttings. This I imported from Japan about 30 years ago, but I've not seen any bonsai since that time. So let's get back to showing you this oak again. We will put it in a large bonsai pot in a few years' time, but there you go. This is an oak we've tried to make. It's about 5 inches across at the base. Nice, gnarled, crusty bark. We cut the top off to create a leader. It's by no means finished, but the ramification gradually appearing, and you can see the progression of the tree. Many people tend to forget that trees take a long time to develop. This is yet another lovely oak. This time I've shown it here in a much better setting, and here we are discussing which should be the front and which should be the back. So this is possibly a nice front, but the ugly root on the right hand side is troubling me. We may have to carve it or shave it down to make it look like a double or triple root. And we may need to do some wiring. These upward pointing shoots are not very nice. We also don't want to hide the front. If we use this as the front, we need to clear the front so the front is more visible. And I'm just tipping the growing shoots so that I get more ramification. Ramification is no more than simply trimming the ends of new shoots. Nothing more complicated than that. This is a new pair of Felco secateurs I'm using because the one I took to America, I gave it to a friend. Some of my other tools were auctioned at the MABS convention. This is also a possible front, but I don't think as nice as the other side. We couldn't decide which to use as the front, but I think this side is better. But it's got some way yet to go. We've got to refine it much, much more. So all it has really is that massive trunk. We have to develop more branches, and there are lots of dead pieces there which need to be carved or removed. I'm trying to knock it off with the secateurs. So it has a lot of potential. That's all we can say. So I'm really assessing and seeing what needs to be done to improve the look of this bonsai. I think I need to wire the branches down to create more space between alternate branches.